Hey, Kansas City. Pedro Zamora is the Executive Director of the Hispanic Economic Development Corporation and also sits on the Vote Yes to Question 1 committee put forth by the Royals and Chiefs teams. Pedro contacted Enterrupt KC to have a discussion about the April 2nd vote on the new Royal Stadium. We asked questions we know our audience cares about. Why the crossroads? What is going on with parking around the new proposed stadium? Who is going to benefit from the Community Benefits Agreement negotiations? How will it benefit the Hispanic and Latino community? We hope this informs your important decision. This is Enterrupt KC. Enjoy this episode.
Welcome back to Enterrupt KC. This is the podcast dedicated to people, places, and things right here in Kansas City. We're coming to you with an exclusive episode right here at the Kauffman Stadium at the Truman Sports Complex.
You know
How
what?
you feeling about this, man?
I'm feeling good about it, man. You know, I want to say that I really appreciate the fact that these individuals reached out to us and, you know, invited us to have a conversation about probably one of the most important topics here in Kansas City.
For sure, man.
If not the most important topic, which is the vote on April 2nd, right?
Yeah.
And
A vote yes, please.
And you know, before we introduce our guests here, you know, one of the things that we want to make clear is, you know, we're all about educating our community, getting out and engaging our community.
There's a lot of questions. Everybody.
Oh yeah.
Everybody wants,
a lot of questions,
answers.
And so what we're hoping is that we do our part and represent our community where we come from really well, which is, you know, Kansas City, right?
Yeah.
And particularly the Hispanic Latino community here. So with that said, I want to introduce today Mr. Pedro Zamora. Mr. Zamora, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Yeah,
thank
good.
you, gentlemen.
Thank you for the invite, man. Thank you for, you know, allowing us to come out here and join you here at Kauffman Stadium.
Hey, if we're going to talk about a topic that's so dear to me and you too, I've heard you guys talk about you know your teams, Kansas City Royals and Kansas City Chiefs.
Every episode, right? We're rocking something, you know, to represent the teams, and I mean the whole community is, right, Pedro? You know, one of the things about this conversation is, you know, depending on who you talk to, you know, there are people who are extremely for it, extremely against it, and then you kind of have a certain group, it seems like, who they don't know what they're unaware. They're, you know, they're still deciding, you know, how can I make the right decision for themselves, for their community. And so I hope that today's conversation really brings out a lot of this information that I think people are waiting to hear.
They need to, right?
Absolutely. It was even confusing for me at the beginning.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So I think, man, let's just jump right in, Pedro. And I know we're going to have potentially another guest here join us. But, you know, let's not waste any time. We'll jump right in, D-Rod. What do you think, man?
Yeah, let's get at it, man.
So what is the committee that you are on? Describe the committee, who put it together, and kind of give us an understanding, give Kansas City an understanding of who is on this committee. What's the purpose?
Yeah, okay. The committee was put together by the Royal and Chief Ownership Group.
Okay.
They wanted to gauge what it's going to take to get a yes vote on August 2nd.
Got it.
And members of our community are on there. Former Mayor Sly James is an advisor, but we have folks like Jason Parsons on the team. We have Bill Dietrich, who is the executive director for the Downtown Council. Tim Cowden, who is part of the Downtown Business Association, trying to recruit businesses and retain them in the Kansas City marketplace. Mm-hmm. I'm on there as a representative for the Latino community and small businesses. I'm the executive director for the Hispanic Economic Development Corporation. I've got a great working relationship about all things that matter downtown Kansas City and our surrounding communities.
Yeah.
Right. That's awesome. And so the committee's purpose and goal is to get a yes vote, I'm assuming, right? That's kind of the purpose of the committee.
Well, the founding purpose is to get the right message out.
Okay.
And then work towards having folks ask questions and then getting that yes vote from them.
Okay.
This is unusually one of the first aggressive campaigns to try to get a yes vote in a very different manner than what would normally take place when we have to look at a vote for new taxation.
Mm-hmm. The ballot, language. So let's back up a second. The vote is on April 2nd, yes?
The vote, yes, is on April 2nd.
April 2nd. And there's over 700,000 people in Jackson County that could potentially, vote on this issue, this topic. The ballot language, I was reading the ballot language, trying to prepare for this conversation. Is there something about the ballot language that you all as a committee are trying to help people understand? Do you feel like it's confusing? Sometimes it can be, the language. Is there something in the ballot language that you all want to clear up?
Well, the ballot language is written for constitutional purposes primarily, so
Right.
it is confusing because of the language that's there. What we are trying to really express is that, yes, it's a new tax, but it's also a renewal of an existing tax that will continue supporting the Royals and the Chiefs. And that's embedded today in today's tax structure on our sales tax.
You said new tax.
How much is that tax again?
So it's a 3/8 sales tax.
3/8,
and we're going to renew it.
Renew it.
The last time the voters went to the poll to approve the 3/8 sales tax was 2006.
Oh, okay.
So with that, what was that tax? What did it achieve at that time?
Yeah.
And what, in comparison to what you're asking for this go around, what's the difference in between them? Can you compare or describe the comparison?
We know where the dollars are going to look like in the future. I don't have the numbers over the past impact. I think some of our other folks in our county as well as our city and our state can really give those numbers to us because it's a sales tax that's generated from tourism dollars, from everything you buy in Jackson County.
You use the word new tax, and I've read some of the articles and some of the things being written and reported about this. Do you consider it a new tax, or is it truly just a continuation of a tax?
It's a continuation. It's a renewal of a tax. With also, you can call it a new tax because with this tax structure, there are community benefit agreements that are going to be associated with it. So it's a new technique that we're using to make sure that the community is prepared to embrace it and the community gets a benefit from it.
A new technique.
Well, in the past, we've had community benefit agreements that were specifically tailored for the teams itself and the properties. Now,
Okay.
the teams agree to take a bigger picture snapshot of the communities that are going to be invited to participate not only in constructing, but also being part of the Kansas City Royals new stadium and the Kansas City Chiefs remodeled stadium.
Mm-hmm. Pedro, you mentioned the Community Benefits Agreement. I think people are calling it a CBA as an acronym, right?
Yes.
Was there a CBA in the last agreement back in 2006 when the community voted yes?
There are CBAs that were associated with the teams.
Okay.
And with some of the things that they will do with it.
Okay.
Not to the level that many organizations and many people across the city, the county, are thinking the best use of a taxpayer dollar, what's that return on investment?
Right.
It's not just a one-way bargaining tool.
Right.
And the teams are very supportive of looking at how they are perceived in the community, and they're giving back.
Who is part of those negotiations? I mean, I can't imagine that, we're hearing numbers like $2 billion being generated through this vote on a yes vote. So, I mean, $2 billion brings a lot of attention from a lot of people. Can you kind of talk about who are the people in part of the negotiation process?
And even maybe like the breakdown on that.
Well, definitely the two teams are on the negotiation piece. Former Mayor Sly James working on it. There's other groups around there. You got the labor unions. You've got a housing group that wants to make sure there's affordable housing that can come out of it. You're right, $2 billion.
Yeah.
It could go a long way.
Yeah.
But let's take a realistic look at it. In today's market, $1 billion goes to the Royals and $1 billion will go to the Chiefs. And there's things that they have to do to disperse those funds.
Mm-hmm.
$1 billion will go to the Royals to construct a new stadium.
Okay.
And that's probably a third of what it's going to actually take to redevelop that whole area.
So where's the other 2/3 coming from?
For the Royals, it'll come from ownership.
Ownership.
It'll come from their investors.
Okay. So $2 billion basically, roughly, is kind of what you're saying, right?
Yeah, they're going to. the total cost of construction hasn't been really defined on everything that they're going to do. But they'll have to immediately start off by settling somewhere $2 million in debt already that they have. The Royals will have to pay that off as well.
Oh, okay. And they have to pay off the debt before receiving the money?
Yes.
Oh, got you.
I wanted to touch on something.
That's $200 million.
200 million.
200
Thank
million.
you. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, 200 million in debt.
That's a different number, Pedro.
That's a different number. Yeah, I had to correct myself. Yeah.
That's a different number.
To back up just a little bit, Pedro, I wanted to say the side proposal was due back in October of 23, right? It wasn't given until February. That's kind of a big issue too. People are upset about that. Want to know explanation on why was it given in February, which is less than 2 months upon the election. Is there any explanation for that you know?
Well, we take a look at the two municipalities that are a part of negotiations, Kansas City, the city of Kansas City, Missouri, and the county of Jackson County.
Right.
There's a lot of interest. There's 3 sites proposed. Coming to this site location, there's a lot of backdoor conversations that take place to get us there. But let's see the pros and cons of the 2 locations. The East Village, which was a fast runner-up, and there's a lot of conversation today that this complex should still go to the East Village because it'll just take out a bank and it'll take out affordable housing.
Right.
That's in that area. It won't disrupt 23 small businesses or 23 parcels.
Right.
Under the proposed Crossroads business district. Now let's take a look at that site. There's already a significant amount of money going in to cap 670, the South Loop. And that's privately funded. And it's also going to have some state funding and some federal funding on that.
And by the cap, you're talking about the park?
The park.
That's
right.
going to go over 670 highway?
Yes.
Got you.
Between Baltimore, and it was Grand originally. It's now extended 3 more blocks to the east.
Oh, wow.
That'll encompass, getting over to the T-Mobile Arena.
Right.
And so let's look at the infrastructure cost that's going to put in the storm sewers, the water mains, and power, and everything else that's necessary. It's a little bit more complicated to put that in play over on the East Village side.
Right.
We have a strong investment already taken place on the cap to put the park over 670. And if you continue over to another asset that the city has called Barney Alice Plaza, that'll close in April. That parking structure is not in great shape. It's targeted to close in April. $175 million is going to be invested into rebuilding that park. That's another huge asset for our city. And so let's take a look at all the dollars going into this general location of the downtown corridor. We have today, we have to service about $12 to $15 million annually to support the Power and Light District. If we were to put the business park, or the business district, the stadium in the East Village, now we're creating a whole new sector in our community. New assets. It could be great.
Yeah.
But it doesn't shore up what we have today.
I hear you. I think just real quick, one question I had about the construction cost of the stadium. So, we're talking about $2 billion, $3 billion to build the stadium potentially. Not sure when construction is going to start or when it's going to end, but one of the things that we've all seen over the last 4 or 5 years is inflation. Inflation has really taken a toll on people and even construction. Who's gonna cover the cost if all of a sudden it goes from $3 billion to $4 billion, let's say, or $500 million? I think those are things that people want to know as well. Like, is this going to cost us more money at the end of the day as well?
Well, what we know today, you're absolutely right. Cost of capital is going up. Labor is going up. Material is going up. But the Royals will spend their dollars from this tax renewal directly on the stadiums. Everything around the stadium is going to be on their dime. They'll finance their own construction of the new development, be it from other outside investors, be it from financing, or let's be realistic. They may come back to the city and the county and says, we want a tax abatement. We're investing $1 billion in new construction. We're going to create jobs. We're going to create new tax bases.
Yeah.
And that may be when they come back to the taxpayers and look for some funding in the form of tax abatement.
Is this area, the crossroads that they're setting up for, is it the least expensive compared to the other ones in East Village and North Kansas City that they're looking at?
Well, take out the acquisition of the existing properties and demoing it. I think what we are told is that it was a better site selection because of the continuity of all the other public assets that are there. You have the streetcar, the investment they're putting to put the park over 670,
Right.
having walkability to and from T-Mobile and to the Power and Light District, and then also shoring up and ensuring that the small businesses in Crossroads that are existing today, that base is there, have an opportunity to increase their opportunities to pick up some of the foot traffic.
Of course.
Can you, Pedro, speak to why the Crossroads location versus the East Village or the I think the third one was the North Kansas City option? I think people were aiming that, oh, this is going to be an East Village, stadium. There was a lot of reporting initially about it. They're going to go to East Village. Can you talk about that a little bit? Why the Crossroads?
Other than what I just expressed about the investment to public facilities, like the new park, parking deck, accessibility to the streetcar, the ability to leverage existing parking spaces within a 10-minute walk. This is what we're being told today. There was a substantial amount of cost for infrastructure on the East Village, and then again, there would have been some displacement of affordable housing units that are there.
Yeah. Well, and to that point though, right? The way you're describing it is the East Village would have had more impact to people versus the Crossroads. That's how I'm hearing you explain it. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay. I think one of the things people are frustrated about is the actual impact happening directly to the businesses, right? Yeah. And so I think people want to hear, us talk about, is there something the Royals, the Chiefs, not necessarily Chiefs, but more of the Royals, part of this agreement, the CBA being negotiated, are there any benefits that are going to take place to those businesses at all?
Directly to those businesses and about probably 1,000 other groups that have popped up out of the air. So,
yeah,
I'm sure, right?
The CBAs, and I'm going to say plural. There's a number of them that are out there being negotiated. They're not going to get done by the time April 2nd comes rolling around. But I rest assured that there is a lot of consideration to the existing businesses there to assist them in either relocating,
right?
Everything from reimbursing them for their cost when they built into the locations that they're at. There's a heavy thought around making everybody comfortable when they relocate. Now, as I mentioned...
So I just want to make sure we're clear. So are you saying that is being negotiated right now in real time with through the CBA, or is that just part of the actual deal?
That's part of the actual deal.
Okay.
There is a strong commitment from both teams to make sure anyone who feels disrupted from that site selection, the work coming out here to the sports complex, people are going to be made whole. They're going to be provided options to ensure that this is not one guy with money coming in to just bully people through it. That's not what this is about. This is about, we're talking about 23 parcels where the new site for the Royal Stadium will go, and 700,000 Jackson Countyans. And then we talk about the region who call Kansas City home of the Chiefs and home of the Royals.
Right.
We're all investors in this project. The sensitivity of relocating a small business, I understand it completely. That's the world we're in.
Right.
But as I mentioned earlier, it took me about 5 days before I decided to join this board and work for this initiative to say yes on April 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
The reason it took that time, because I had to really vet, am I doing the right thing for small business? Am I doing the right thing for Mr. Sherman's family and the Hunt family? And at the end of the day, when it was spelled out very clearly, there's no intention to close a business down without having them made completely successful and whole.
Right.
And those were some key things that we had to talk about. The second piece that we talked about that was part of the Community Benefits Agreement, the CBA, was how do we look at not just the Crossroad community, but we talk about all the communities that will be impacted.
Yes.
Everyone's going to be impacted when they go buy groceries. Everyone's going to be impacted whenever they buy anything in Jackson County. So we had to take a really strong look at that. What does that mean? In the Community Benefits Agreement, the Royals and the Chiefs are saying, we're going to put programs in place to help shore up small businesses. We're going to put programs in place to help put empowerment programs to help people build their skill sets to move up, education. So this is a bigger picture.
Well, I think that's awesome. I just wanted to hear some explanation, about, people have said, I've heard them say it, I've seen it online, social media, they don't care about these businesses. They're not, they're picking on the little, picking on the little person,
You see them all the time.
And listen, I don't own a business, so I'm just viewing this on the outside looking in. And I think it's a, a question that people want to hear be answered. What is going to be provided to these businesses that are being directly impacted? So I appreciate the answer.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, is there any other type of success story from another team or another city that has done what we're trying to do here, or what you're trying to do?
Well, I think from a success of a downtown baseball stadium or a success of having a community benefits agreement that fully engages union labor and non-union labor, small businesses, minority-owned, women-owned, veteran-owned. This CBA is defining which can be a catalytic for everyone. We can't go 100% union on this site because it doesn't make sense, because 100% of the labor force doesn't live in Jackson County.
Right, there'll be some travelers.
So let's be realistic. We saw a system implode up at the airport. They didn't hit their marks. This particular project is, from the get-go, they're saying we will ensure we hit milestones, not marks, milestones.
Right.
And so if we left in a world of let's not move the stadium, let's keep everything intact, do you think we'll get a community benefit agreement that talks about all of the communities being empowered?
Right.
No, I think it's going to be concentrated back here at the sports stadium.
Yeah.
I have fond memories of being at the K, where we're sitting today.
Right.
I have very fond memories. World Series, celebrations.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, to take it personal, to say, let's keep it Jackson County, sports complex the same. We all understand business and time change. We have to adapt to the changing times. We have to maintain our wonderful city's presence of having Major League Baseball, NFL sports, football, soccer. We have a beautiful soccer stadium downtown now.
Yeah, shout out to Current.
Yeah.
They're getting ready to start their season.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
So downtown stadiums are a trend. One wonderful community benefit agreement that I saw happen in Las Vegas. They had a working relationship, a labor agreement between the non-union minorities and the unions. They made it clear, beyond just a livable wage. We don't know what those market rates are today, and we definitely won't know when they start construction.
Right.
So we'll get back to the construction time frame. But we do know that there's examples of failed community benefit agreements. Let's take a look at Buffalo Bills Stadium. They said they wanted to go 100% labor union, Western New York.
How long ago was that?
About 3 years ago, over 3 years. And that financially didn't hit its mark. So let's take a look. I'm proud to say that my peers that are my co-chairs and peers that are working in many different capacities are thinking outside the box and thinking about the community as a whole. Now, you had asked when would construction start. Well, we know we have this world-renowned World Cup coming to Kansas City in 2026. Oh, yeah. There's no way we'll be
Who's heard of that?
Yeah. Let's talk about inclusion on this one, too. Yeah. And how do we get our community included? Yeah. I mean, soccer is very prominent in the Latino community.
Yes,
man.
We got to be at the table there.
That's
we
right.
got to be in the forefront. We got to be the poster children.
We better have a podcast.
We got to keep the podcast going.
We have a set up shop, man.
So if we can get a community benefits agreement that's forcefully putting everybody at the table, let's talk about how that can work moving forward with the World Cup. It's two years away.
Yeah.
This is an amazing opportunity that our city and our region will be seeing, and it's all around sports.
Right. I appreciate, the way you're answering these questions, Pedro. I feel like you're being as transparent as possible, which I think what people want, right?
Yeah, man,
I know that's what we want for our audience. The idea of a downtown stadium. I grew up, well, first of all, I worked at this stadium selling pretzels, of all things, which was an amazing experience at both Chiefs Stadium and Royal Stadium.
What section was you in?
I was all over this damn stadium, to be honest with you. Shout out Vinny's Pretzels. All the people, they're no longer here anymore, but they were kind of like
Pretzels
over the
right
charcoal, over the charcoal grilled softened. Anyway, a great first job as a teenager.
Yeah.
But I grew up playing in RBI League, and RBI League here in Kansas City, playing at the Satchel Page Stadium.
Yeah.
Literally stands for returning baseball to the inner city.
Reviving baseball.
Reviving
baseball in the inner city.
And so, but I remember that growing up, Pedro. I remember playing for the West Side team out in RVI, and things like that. It always kind of seemed like our stadium being away from downtown was different, right? But is the idea of moving the stadium to downtown, literally, is that a new idea in Major League Baseball? Is that a trend that people are seeing across the nation? Can you talk about that a little bit? What are the Royals seeing on that?
Well, it is a trend that it's an economic decision. Everyone talks about studies that show that downtown stadiums or any stadium business district doesn't really return on that investment. But let's be serious. We're doing a tax. And ownership is coming in with their fair share, if not more. And they're creating jobs. And in this case, sustaining jobs. Having a trend of moving downtown stadiums, it's about downtown's revival. It's about recreating, rethinking the downtown. If we learned anything throughout the pandemic and people working from home, that was challenging. How do we get economic commerce back downtown to fund our public services?
Yeah.
I mean, we have the 1 cent earnings tax. It dipped during the pandemic.
Right.
Sure, we had American Recovery Act dollars to help offset losses in the counties, the states, and businesses. But let's be realistic. We have to see our city come back to life. And the investments that we've made today are just the beginning. So the downtown stadiums across the nation, they're a part of reviving. Some have been successful and some haven't. I think everyone in the committee I work with believe we're one step ahead to make it happen and successful.
Nice. With that, what about the parking issue?
Yeah.
Everybody, man, like you said, we're out talking last night. Guy we met that we saw.
Yep.
Man,
Latino too.
Yeah.
Urban Latino.
The parking issue is a big deal. How can you explain that?
The issue's there today. The issue's there today, folks. I mean, let's just be realistic. 2 cars per apartment.
Concerts at T-Mobile.
Concerts at T-Mobile. There's 44,000 parking spots in that 10-minute walking area today. And so,
how many?
44,000.
44,000 parking spots. Yeah. There is 26,000 here at the Kaufman.
Yeah.
Right.
And we have 17,000 seats at the K.
Yeah.
So we more or less cover that. There are conversations taking place today with the KC Area Transportation Authority, the Metro Bus, to improve transportation not only to the downtown location, but out here to the sports, the Chief Stadium, Arrowhead. I call it Gia Field, Arrowhead. But there are alternative transportation methods out there. You've got the trolley car that'll go all the way to UMKC. So these things will be in place to help transition people, not vehicles. We have to look at moving people, not just moving vehicles and parking vehicles.
Yeah, I think you're bringing up a good point, Pedro, and I will tell you the idea of a downtown stadium, and you kind of said it earlier, right? It's surrounding neighborhoods, right? The urban core is a lot of minorities. You're talking about, the west side neighborhood. You're talking about the northeast neighborhood. I mean, there are people who work at these stadiums today, and they're probably wondering, well, how the hell am I going to get to work now if there's no public transportation access for me? So they're probably thinking about that, A, and then B, what is being negotiated through the CBA in terms of wages. You talked about a livable wage, right? For the Las Vegas example. Can you talk about that at all for Latino community especially? Yeah,
so the success of 2022, 2023, HUDC, we assisted the KC ATA in identifying a gap in a bus route that goes east and west. Yeah, the west side, everything west of Gillum Road today pays a transportation development tax. Everything east of Gillum does not. So we're taking the brunt on the streetcar today, and we can't even get access to it.
Right.
Yeah. So what transpired last year, in July of last year, they kicked off an east-west corridor express route. And it comes from Main, 19th and Main, all the way down to 31st Street and loops around Quick Trip, that general area. And in 20 minutes, you can get reconnected to the streetcar. That's been a strategy by reconnecting our communities together. The same route goes over to the east side, 18th Street and Vine. Two historical minority business settlement areas.
Yeah.
So that's a step one. Step two, there is going to be conversations about how do we protect the communities, the authentic communities. And there's roughly 18 authentic communities that are under the Greater Downtown Area Plan that the city has identified. The West Side had its own area plan. It's now covered by the Greater Downtown Area Plan, Columbus Park. We know that the authentic low to moderate income settled communities that happen to be minorities must have some protective measures to allow them to enjoy life and not be forced out. When you talk about new economic development anywhere, the development market says you're going to enjoy the headwind and the benefit of all the work we're doing. Your property values are going to go up, and you're going to love us for that. Well, how do we love you when we're being taxed out? And so we have to have a conversation with Jackson County and the state of Missouri to put protective measures in place to make sure that doesn't happen. It's not all on the baseball teams and the football team to do this.
Well, have you had them conversations with them?
They're well aware of these topics.
And any response from them?
Jackson County is Jackson County under their current leadership. And thank goodness we have some good legislators in there that look at things in a different eye than the tax assessor who's appointed by the Jackson County executive.
Okay.
So that has to change. What we're also looking at are changes at Jefferson City that puts a constitution back in front of how you can tax people. And so there are caps that are stated in the state constitution. Unfortunately, Jackson County exercises a different philosophy, and they're trying to put a tax before the people without representation.
Yeah.
So with that being said, the tools, as I mentioned, the Crossroad has its own PIEA district, which holds their taxes on their
own PEIA.
PEIA. Yeah, and I'll tell you what that is later. It's public. It's a tax abatement. It's a tax freeze.
I'm only saying because people. The reason why we're doing this It's for people or
Yeah.
audience can comprehend everything you're saying. You know,
We'll type that in later.
Private investment.
Public equity, something like that. Okay. It's off the top of my head. They're protected. Is the West Side protected? Is Northeast protected? Columbus Park just agreed on an urban renewal plan that helps hold their taxes down for 10 years. The East Side has one that's a large, massive overlay. Did we get anything particularly for the West Side? Quite frankly, we got a half-assed deal with the current 353 that's there. Mm-hmm. But it is what it is, you know. Mm-hmm. And then we got a proposal held up by our 4th District at-large city council member, and it's a bad deal that's held up. So if anyone wants to be upset about someone getting taxed out, call your council member. Right. Because there are tools that we can exercise as residents of Kansas City and Jackson County. So I've gave you a couple of examples that what we as citizens and property owners have to exercise around.
Yeah, for sure, 100%.
No, I mean, I think that's great. And, you know, Pedro, one of the things that we've talked about on our episodes with people, I mean, we've had Crispin Rea, we've had Manny Abarca, we've had people who are elected officials on this podcast with us, and we've talked about the importance of voting. Absolutely. And the importance of paying attention. Yeah. You know, I mean, our community gets so wrapped up in, you know, the emotions of a subject, and our purpose is to get out and inform people, have these conversations so that people understand, like, okay, that's what's happening. That's what they mean by, east-west, transportation idea, So I think, that's what we're trying to extract from you through this conversation.
I'll follow up on that east-west transportation. So this morning at the Chamber of Commerce, Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, there was a conversation with the Royals, and we talked about this tax with the Commerce members, and the conversation came up that when the streetcar was approved, the east-west connector was number 3 on the list originally. It was number 3 as the extension. Well, we now know that that's off the books. I mean, and that's a different topic we can get on down the road. But what the KCATA is working on, again, we've got the new routes, we've got the typical city buses. What might come in, we're not sure what the exact date and time frame that will come in, but there are going to be some streetcar-looking buses that will go east and west on Southwest Boulevard. One uniquely decorated for the historical preservation of the Latino community and the West Side, not just Latinos, but what the West Side looks like. Same for the 18th and Vine District. Right. So that's connecting it. Sometimes we've got to be careful what we ask for in this regard as well.
Of course.
The follow-up on getting out to vote, that's huge, and it's important. And in this case, I'm going to say vote yes on this because there's a lot more to success for our communities of color and all of Jackson County by having 2 major professional sports franchises. What's in it for our community? How do we get our community engaged? Well, La Raza, which is our political PAC that has been around for a while, is funded to get out and get mobilized to get people to vote and to get the message out. So they're going to have to be the check got to them today. So they're going to have to get out and start mobilizing people. So if you want to get active involved, contact some folks at La Raza. But we also have an office on Broadway. I think it's 31st in Broadway that you can pick up banners and you can pick up flyers. And you can get paid if you want to go walk and knock doors and put hangers on.
Yeah.
I
think make some money, about $18 an hour. They're probably going to say Pedro was 15, but I'm saying it's 18. But.
Well, voting. I mean, Pedro, voting just at it's your fundamental right, as a citizen, in the United States, and I would even say it's a duty. I mean, it's your duty to vote, no matter how you feel about it. Are there any other features? I mean, we've heard the stadium, right? We're sitting here in Kauffman Stadium right now, and people say, "Oh, they just want to build a stadium." So, of course, naturally, we see the the graphic, illustrations, and we see the stadium. It's a baseball field, right? Mm-hmm. Are there any other features that are not really being talked about that are incorporated into the stadium that you want to talk through for us?
Well, let's talk about $200 million coming back to the taxpayers. And then that's with both teams taking the responsibility under this most recent lease agreement. Mm-hmm. This goes without the election or not. But the $200 million go back. That's the insurance premiums that the teams pay that currently the taxpayers are paying for these stadiums today here at the sports complex. That's an unknown value add that comes back to the taxpayers. Then on an annual basis, there's roughly about $4 million that comes from the county's Park and Recreation Fund to support the stadium. That's also coming back on an annual basis back into the taxpayers' hands so we can go back into better programming and other services. So those are some things behind the door that monetarily, as I shared on the downtown sports complex, they talked about leveraging what's existing. It's already moving. There's a lot of support behind capping 670. Mm-hmm. With the most recent proposal that the Royals put together, they're extending that cap an additional 3 blocks. Now, there's a skywalk bridge that goes over the park, so it's not to disrupt traffic. And
sure.
It's just to move people.
Yeah.
You got to talk about moving people.
I guess what I was getting at, Pedro, and I probably should have gave you some of this, is I read, at least when I was reading a couple things about this, there's like a conference room, there's a hotel potentially. Oh, yeah. I mean, is that some of that also private investment on the Royals' part as well?
100% private investment on the Royal side. That, again, the 3/8 sales tax only pays for the stadiums.
Right. And
the county will still own the stadiums. And so...
Oh, the county will still own the stadiums?
The county will still own the stadiums, yeah.
Okay.
Because we're using taxpayer dollars. I mean, so we're getting an investment a return on our investment.
So the citizens will still own the stadiums is really what I'm hearing you say.
Yes. The county will still own the stadium. The citizens will still own the stadium.
Why is you saying that the first time I've heard somebody say that?
I think...
D-Rod, I have not heard them say that.
I haven't heard that either, man.
Yeah, literally, Pedro, that's the first time I've heard somebody say that the county's still going to own the stadium.
The citizens of Jackson County will still own the stadium. They'll be the landlords.
Wow. And that's all just a transition, really, from one space to another.
Correct.
Brand new stadium.
Brand new stadium, owned by the county taxpayers. The hotel will be built by private dollars, by the ownership and their development team. Mm-hmm. Same thing out here at the sports complex. The Royal Stadium, the Chiefs Stadium will be the use of only the tax dollars. Anything around it will be a part of the Chiefs investment. Okay.
Let's get right into the community benefits agreement, Pedro, the CBA. I think for people who don't understand this, we want to ask just a basic conversation, right? Questions about what a CBA is. The timeline for the community benefits agreement. What was the timeline? What is the timeline? We're hearing, and at least I'm hearing it on the news being reported. I'm seeing it in articles being written that, there should have been an agreement in place already. There's not an agreement in place. Talk about that for us.
So there's a lot of unknowns, as we all are starting to see. And the unknown was how authentic the leadership team, and it's not really an unknown, the leadership team was about community. The important piece of having community participation in this decision. I think the legislators of Jackson County did the right thing by putting it to vote. So it's not just a legislative body and an executive director,
right?
The county director making the decision. It's out to vote for the people. So now it's being a little more transparent. The next step is what's a CBA? It's kind of a legal document that talks about the benefits. That, once we put money into you, what are you going to do for the community so we can get 100% behind your project?
Right.
And that's what the structure is being done today. We have affordable housing. We have provisions in there for the relocating, not displacing, relocating businesses and ensuring that they're still 100% profitable, if not in a better position than they are today. That's what they want to do.
The CBA, I mean, I've been around some agreements in my life, Pedro, so bear with me. I mean, when I'm hearing you talk about how many people are involved, and I'm sure there's a lot of asks through those conversations, I'm visioning it as like this document that's like this thick, you know. Is it one agreement, one community benefits agreement? Are there multiple CBAs? Help us understand that part.
There's multiple CBAs. There's multiple CBAs being put together. I don't know. I'm not sure if I can give you the total number, but it's over 5. So
wow.
I think every week this discussion goes on. Someone else comes in and says they want something. I was down at the Brick Monday, which is within the shadow of the new stadium.
Right.
And Monday they have the Rural Grit Happy Hour from 6 to 9, and it's bluegrass music, live music, and they're really against this. And I sat back and I got a bad look when I sat down. I said, "You're that guy. You're supporting this. You know, you're kicking us out." I'm here for a hamburger, man.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. It just happened, but it was a good move on my part.
Yeah.
I sat there and I listened to some folks talk about it.
Yeah.
And in
they charge
reality,
you double price, sir?
yeah, they did, because I didn't get that $2 beer.
Damn.
Man, see?
I didn't get that $9 meal, but that's okay. But what I also sat back and I looked at, I said, well, if you're upset about this, why aren't you talking to the Crossroads Business Association? And it's like everyone's is stating, and earlier we said this, those who have money make all the decisions.
Right.
That's not what these two teams are trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to, through this community benefits agreement, they're trying to get your voices heard. So that's the difference. That's a game changer. That's why I said yes to being on this as a co-chair.
Well, I mean, I appreciate that. You said earlier, Pedro, when you had thought, when you were kind of analyzing whether or not to be on this committee that you're on, this Vote Yes committee, you had to kind of take a step back and think through, like, what is the purpose? You know, how are you helping, right, this with this initiative and the community that you represent? I know you're from the West Side, Pedro, of KCMO. Your family is. But you represent a lot more than that. You know, are you the only Latino on this committee?
Hello, the only Latino on this committee. There are members on the advisory board. So
okay.
There's, I think, 37 members on the advisory board.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the reason why I asked that is because, you know, we have these conversations with people, and we've just heard over and over, you know, representation matters. You know, representation matters. So with that said, through the CBA, what are those things that you specifically, Pedro, are trying to work into the CBA for the Hispanic Latino, I would say businesses for sure, contractors, artists, you know, employees who are going to work at this stadium. Like I said, I did at one time.
The neighborhoods.
The neighborhoods. I mean, can you help us understand some of those things that you're being vocal about?
And I appreciate you talking about the workers here at the complex. And, you know, there are a piece of these organizations, and the team recognizes that. Hopefully we'll hear something from some of the Royals workers and some of the Chiefs workers, because there's over 5,000 of them, I think, roughly. That's the number I heard.
Wow.
That indirectly or directly support operations here throughout the year.
Wow.
And that's an amazing number. I do know that even from a ticket holder to a usher, they make roughly $15, $18 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And they're offered benefits if they want to participate. That's catalytic, man. This is real. This is business.
That's a lot more than I made when I was flipping pretzels. I'm going to tell you that right
Times
now,
changed.
Pedro.
Times changed.
Man, I should have stayed an employee.
Again, right? They're going to change again.
So with that, the Latinos have to be prepared in 2 to 3 years to make a move to do this. They have to get their act together. I mean, we have to really come together collectively. If you're an artist, we saw a base of what can be done up at the airport. And I think you have ITRA icons.
Yeah,
So I guess they
shout out.
participated. So give them a shout out there. We saw a base example of what can be done. We're going to build from that. We got to be better at it because this project's bigger. And
Well, and it's in the community, right?
It's in the community.
You know, when nobody was going downtown 20 years ago, we were.
Yeah, well,
We were still going
and
down
then
there.
even like we talked about, JL, you know, like everybody's wearing the apparel, everybody's wearing the hats,
Oh, man.
everybody's wearing the jerseys.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Well,
you'll
we
see it
just
everywhere.
lost an important person in our community going to celebrate a win, a Super Bowl win, right? So that is our community, Pedro.
Yeah.
You're part of our community. You know, we're part of that community. But specifically, right, like the contractors, the businesses. I mean, you know, the restaurants. You know, I mean, is there going to be opportunity things that you're fighting for vocally?
Absolutely. Affordable housing, protective measures to sustain authentic neighborhoods. Let's talk about what could be catalytic for these two teams. And I brought this up Tuesday at our board meeting. If we're going to do an impact study of just the crossroads and the surrounding neighborhoods, there's going to be a check and bounce. Crossroads have power. They have already a mobilized movement. The West Side is going to get protected. We are working to protect the West Side. And best, there's how much more knocking down old bungalow homes and building new homes can we tolerate? We've got to put more protective measures in there. Educate everyone to understand that there's options out there.
Sure.
I gave you an example, the 353 and the urban renewal. They can coexist to protect. And if this doesn't wake up our city council to say, hey, our neighborhoods need to leverage these tools that our big developers are using, we have to protect our constituents. That's one good example. The other one is promotional activity within the West Side, within the Jazz District, because we have to put seats in the restaurants, we have to put shoppers in our retail stores, and we have to put people who are authentically interested in learning about the Latino culture into our social service organizations.
Right.
And this is an opportunity to elevate that.
What's been the most difficult part of this negotiation process?
You know, negotiations are what they are.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of quietness between them. You know, you can't just put all your cards out in the press and say, hey, this is what we're doing, because there's a lot of things that go along with that. I think coming out, and the team's heard this, so I'm not the only one saying this, the messaging, the team's messaging, communication, yeah, I think it was a little bit less transparent, more rah, rah, rah,
right.
Let's push this through. And again, let's be real, we got the vote on the ballot, was that November, December, that conversation started, that got through legislation, wasn't getting through with the county executive, but so time, speed of time to get to where we're at.
Yeah.
But my time that I took to sit back and think about, is this good for me and good to be on this committee, was because the authentic, again, I'm going to state this, the authentic outreach the Chiefs and the Royals will be making to our communities.
Well, I'm excited and I'm hopeful that that's a real thing, right, Pedro? I think, people can view this as a measure of you're trying to engage us now. Where were we before, right? I think what people want to see, and I tell you, Pedro, I've been told this directly, tangible. We want tangible benefits from this stadium moving downtown. And so I'm excited for you that you're part of those conversations, and I know we have other leaders in the Hispanic community who are as well.
Yeah.
But I think that's what the community really wants to see and hear is tangible benefits.
Yeah, that's a part of what's authentic about this team. They just hired a Latino as a senior vice president of community outreach.
Luis May.
Yes.
Yep.
We heard him speak this morning.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's there's really cool things going on.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, folks, take a time out, take a deep breath, go to your closet, look at your apparel, and then imagine when they're gone.
Mm.
Right.
And imagine what are you going to do with 81 days watching the Royals, watching them play out of Memphis or Nashville. Let's be real, that's happening. And then let's take a look at the Chiefs. Will we be there for a 3-peat, 6-peat? We have to really be sincere. 3 8-cent sales. Let's get the ballot. Let's get through the ballot, because the CBAs aren't going to be done before April 2nd. I can almost guarantee you that. There's so much activity. There's so much tangible commitments that we're trying to weed through. It's business, first and foremost.
Yeah.
Both teams have to make a profit so they can give back to the community and put talent on the fields. That's a starting point.
Yeah. Well, we'll take a winning team. Can we make that part of the agreement?
I thought you guys were going to write a check. Enterrupt KC is making it big now.
Yeah.
Make a bid on it.
The other piece of what I believe that we have to consider is that the MOU will be the first step, the Memorandum of Understanding to talk about we're going to complete the CBA, the Community Benefits Agreement, with all the tangible goals and measurable outcomes.
Right.
That will probably be the first one completed. It's just business, how you negotiate and structure agreements. It holds people's feet to the fire, and it's saying, okay, folks, crossroads, we got to get a yes vote. How can we make you happy? What can we do to make you happy today? Jackson County, this is what we're doing to get the right message out.
You brought up Nashville, which leads me to, if there's a no vote, right, is that a serious option of them leaving?
Absolutely. Without a doubt. I mean, it's not a threat. I mean,
some people would say it's a scare tactic.
So, I mean, it's been noted before.
So it's an expansion effort.
Okay.
I mean, Major League Baseball,
right.
We'll specifically talk about the Royals. Major League Baseball is looking to expand, and they have a huge effort going on to attract a Major League Baseball team down in that Memphis, Austin. It's real. I mean, money talks.
They've been poking at this bear for a while, from what I hear, right?
Yeah, money talks. One of the things I want to be clear about is some people have taken shots, and I've met John Sherman a few times, and people have taken a shot at him and say, well, he hasn't put a winning team on the field. He's only owned the team for 3 years.
Yeah.
Let's get comfortable. Let's sit down. Let's build this community.
Yeah.
It's
Thank
team.
you, Mr. Glass. Appreciate that.
Dan or David, I don't know which one.
Yeah.
But let's take a look at that. I think he's made. I heard you two gentlemen talk about Bobby Witt Jr. getting signed and how exciting it is.
That's right.
Steps will be taken. We've got to put a winning team in, but we also have to have the teams feel like they're in a grade A city.
So, are they talking to other cities about relocation?
They're talking to Kansas City first by passing this vote.
Right.
I mean, I'm certain they're taking phone calls, and we're not privy to those phone calls, but we do know, it's a small world. We do know competition for Major League and professional league sports. It's real.
I kind of, when I think about it, Pedro, and I was kind of talking to D-Rod about this yesterday, preparing for this conversation. People hear Nashville, right? And if you've not been to Nashville, it has exploded.
Man.
Yeah.
Exploded.
Yeah.
And
a lot of
I mean,
people
if we want to think back to 20 years ago, if people said Nashville, we wouldn't have even balked at that. Like, whatever. Nashville. Same thing as Austin. You mentioned Austin.
Yeah.
I've driven to San Antonio, Corpus Christi multiple times in the last 20 years. And in Austin used to be a little speed bump in the road getting to San Antonio. Not no more. It's a huge
traffic
city
jam.
now.
Well,
it is 2 million people.
Even our city 20 years ago, we talk about that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not trying to sway people, but I think the idea of Nashville and Austin, because you brought those cities up, it's probably real in the sense that those cities can take them in and be successful in their own right, because they, in the last 20 years, since 2006 roughly, they have just gone crazy with development and growth.
They have a lot behind them, both tech and music entertainment. Kansas City has authentic people. I think that's why the two teams have stuck around with leadership.
Yeah.
I think it makes it who wants to make a commitment to the community. I think that's speaks loud.
No, I mean, I agree with you. Outside looking in on this, we're not privy to the conversations you're involved in with the board and the ownership of the teams. and we're really not privy to the conversations at the county level and the city level. But it seems, just outside looking in, Pedro, that, and I just read something today even about this kind of back and forth about the county wanting to have the teams pay for the election. The relationship between the teams and the county, the leadership of the county. What is your sense there? I mean, just reading between the lines, and maybe I do that too much, it just seems a little fractured. I don't know.
I commend our county legislators for taking action as they were elected to represent the people. I see the structure of the county executive office, and I have some respect for a lot of those folks that are there, because I mean, let's take it realistic. Troy Schulte was city manager for Kansas City, so he knows the city. He's now at the county, so I have some respect for that. The relationship between the county executive and the county legislator, hey, they got to get over it, because they represent the people, and we're tired of just being, told, oh, this is the way we got to do it. Let's solve the problem. Yeah. Problems, plural, and let's figure this out. So I hope they get there. I think the Royals and the Chiefs will definitely work through. They've already done one. They've worked through the Jackson County Sports Authority's agreement. So that's kind of step one. So it's legitimate. They're trying to put money back in the county, and they're trying to put money back into the city. And so they're trying their best.
Well, the article I read and the information I was going through, the county leadership was asking the teams to pay for the election, which was approximately $1 million. Yeah. But then you kind of read further, right, and you realize, well, actually, that cost is into the 3/8 cents sales tax yes vote. So the county recoups that money back if the stadium vote passes. Are you aware of that?
And there goes that $1 Friday we used to enjoy. I mean, they might have to make it $1.50 to pay off that $1 million. They're going to pay it. I think it's business, and I think both franchises look at it. Okay, if it's a cost of doing business, we know we got this election. We had to get it. They would have done it to anyone else if you want to put something on the election ballot. So they're just exercising the right of the county to ask for reimbursement.
Right.
Anytime you put any type of election on a ballot, there's a cost associated with it.
Well, I mean,
nothing's free.
No, I don't know what free is anymore. Yeah. When I was a kid, everything was free. It seemed like, but then I realized, no, it actually wasn't free.
No, it was free when I was a
kid. Mom and Dad worked hard for that.
That's right, man. That's right.
And we worked hard to pay Mom and Dad back.
Yeah, for sure.
Pedro, can you explain to our audience, why is it important for the Royals to stay in Jackson County?
Well, from a philanthropic standpoint, let's talk about that. I mean, Mr. K was a good example of giving, educating, and being noble. The Sherman family, Sherman Foundation, the Royals Foundation, have a high bar to succeed. Mm-hmm. The Hunt family's been very well received and very strong and powerful in giving in our community. So I think that's a start. Losing either of those will feel the impact. Mm-hmm. Even if they move to Kansas, because they may not have a CBA if they go to Kansas. Either team, let's just keep it close to home. From a business decision, if Kansas City Royals or Kansas City Chiefs move to Kansas, they don't change their name. They're just moving. They're still keeping Kansas City as the name. Yeah. But if they move to Nashville, everything's off the board then. It's real if we lose them. And if they do move, what are we going to do with this complex? What are we going to do with the Chiefs complex? If both teams leave because they just don't get an opportunity to get supported for another 40 years, then the taxpayers have a responsibility to do something with these stadiums. Mm-hmm. Today, in the proposal, the Chiefs will demolish the Royal Stadium and do the right thing in redeveloping this area on their dime, not out of the taxpayers' pot. Mm-hmm. So there's options we have to think about, the long-range effect economically.
Yeah, well, and, there's also the effect. It seems like I'm thinking about how many businesses thrive off of there being a Kansas City Royals. I mean, the thing about the businesses that have just blown up, in terms of grown by way of their own T-shirt branding, their own,
Charlie Hustle.
yeah, I
we
mean,
give all kinds of
Rally
shout-outs.
House,
Rally
and
House,
I mean, there's so many businesses, restaurants, bars. I mean, that have really thrived on there being a Kansas City Royals baseball team here.
John Garcia, on the west side.
Yeah.
Who's got a John Garcia Chiefs, Viva Royals T-shirt,
Yeah.
Chiefs shirt. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that come with it. I mean, the unidentified revenue sources that trickle down into our community, and that's an important part. I think at the forefront, I hope all the listeners understand that there is a very strong intentional effort to put tangible benefits to the community on the table. They're there. That may not be done before the election, but why experience the interrupt if we lose them?
Right.
Yeah.
Why think about it? I mean, the 3/8 cent sales tax is a sales tax when you consume a product, you buy something.
Well, with that, Pedro, can you explain to our audience in Kansas City, why they should vote yes?
We must maintain the Tier 1 model in our local Midwest city that we all love, our region. And losing a team is not a good experience. And
Happens all the time, man.
Well, not.
I mean, different places.
Different places, not Kansas City.
Yeah.
So let's make sure we're not one of those statistics.
Right.
I mean, let's make sure what we've done, what we've all benefited from. Like I mentioned earlier, Kaufman had set the bar high for the Shermans and the Glasses. So we have to just be really thoughtful of thinking, what's life without it?
Yeah.
And the no vote puts a threat to us, and it's not just a threat, an idle threat. There's competition for these teams.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the part that we all have to think about. What I thought, and I told Joe Arce at the KC Hispanic News, I said, Joe, if we do lose this vote and they do exercise their right and other cities come in and make a sweeter deal, it's business. I can't be mad at them. But it will allow every person who comes out to the stadiums to stay home with their kids, watch them play football in the background, or go to their local ballparks and watch Little League baseball or Pee Wee football. Maybe pay $130 to watch those games.
Yeah.
Let's be real. I mean, spend time. I mean, we're going to lose time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to say, man, a part of me, and we've talked about it with some of our guests and just, our friends and family, I know, is why didn't the Chiefs, when they came out, just like the timeline, right? The Royals announced where they want to move. Week or two later, the Chiefs come out. This is what we're going to do with when the Royals are gone. And I'm thinking, why didn't they want to build a dome? I think that would have been an overwhelming, yes, let's do that.
Yeah,
I mean that's my opinion, right? I mean, I just feel that way because, we're watching Las Vegas, who already got the Raiders a couple years ago. They built a brand new stadium, right?
Arrowhead West.
Yeah, Arrowhead West. Our team had to go there, right? And we won a Super Bowl there. But I think for Kansas City, I mean, I'm thinking back 20 years ago, right? The vote, back then, there was a discussion about dome back then, and so I don't know.
Well, imagine the flyover flying into the dome. I mean, I think, come on now. So what do we experience? Imagine the parachuters flying into the dome. So, I mean, I think authentic sports, I like domes. I've been to several of them.
Yeah.
I've watched games there, especially when it's cold.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think it's up to the Chiefs to
absolutely.
make that decision. I mean, I heard there's a competitive edge, and we saw that against Miami. Not that we needed that cold weather to be a competitive edge.
Would you hear of that game?
I
Did you
came
go
here
to
on
it?
Christmas,
Oh.
and it was cold enough for Christmas.
Yes.
I mean, it was cold. As a former season ticket holder for both teams, and I say that now, I might jump back on the bandwagon again here and get a season ticket here. But when you have kids, you start losing time and to come to the games all the time. And when the Chiefs were losing, I was like, no one wanted to buy my tickets or take my tickets for free, so I had to take a break from them. And I love watching them from the remote comfort of my home with remote control and not waiting in line. But that's me. But I think the dome idea has been around since they built this complex. The rolling roof.
Yeah, we saw illustrations
unique,
of
nostalgic, all that. We're Kansas City. Let's take advantage of what we got.
Yeah.
I mean, just layer up on a cold day.
That's what I do.
Yeah, I have been there. It's painful, but I get it. I get through it. The wins make it less painful, Pedro. I mean, I've been to the cold games when we've lost too, and it's 2 times colder.
It's funny
walking
you say
out.
that. My son, he went. We came on Christmas, and he took a day off the next day because he said his bones hurt.
Yep.
On the cold day against Miami, he was up partying for the.
Yeah.
Wins do make everybody feel better.
Yeah. No, I just asked that question because I heard it this morning. Right. One of the somebody speaking on behalf of the teams here. They said, the Royals are really trying to take advantage of the wind, the wind of the Chiefs. They're trying to get that sail right. Just kind of float by with that wind of the back-to-back Super Bowl champs. So, I haven't met anyone. I'll be honest with you. I've not met anyone and talked to anybody who's been overwhelmed by what they've seen by the Chiefs.
I think
in terms of
we
like,
talked to has been like, what?
Yeah, like I don't know about that. And hey, listen, that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
Hopefully one day we can get a Chiefs person to talk to us about it.
We'll work on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, Pedro, is there anything that you want to express before we wrap this up here?
I called 3 people my first day after accepting this role, and I'll leave their names out. But I had 3 very strong opinions of, hell no, I don't want to vote for this. And because the misinformation that was out there. So after week 1, 3-4 weeks ago, our meeting, we changed some and got approval to start talking about other aspects of what's in it for the community. Only the stadiums will receive the money. Everything else outside the stadiums is paid for by the owners. I called everybody back up after I left that meeting, made it very clear. I said, well, I'll be damned. Why did they say that in the first place?
Yeah.
Messaging goes a long way.
Yeah.
I believe both teams are working stronger on it. Imagery, I mean, let's just take it. That might be just a first rendition. We all have a right to vote.
Yeah.
We all have a right to put a comment. I'm certain both teams have a site up that lets you take your comments and say, can you improve something? I'm certain they're going to listen. But it's a business model that they had to look at with the existing structure that they've got.
Sure.
They're trying to improve that. They're trying to improve the experience.
Okay.
Nice.
Well, hey, listen, we really appreciate you inviting us out here to have this conversation here at the K.
Yeah.
One of the things that, I want to take a time to express is our podcast here, we represent Kansas City, and I said this at the beginning, but directly we represent the Latino Hispanic community. And I think it's vitally important on the team's part to make sure that our communities are directly positively impacted with tangible benefits through these negotiation processes and through the construction of the new stadium. At the end of the day, but also to engage us, right? Engage us. We're here. That's why we put this platform together, because we want to be able to have these conversations with people like yourself.
Yeah.
Behind us, we have this setup, and the signatures are mostly Latino leaders in the community, and we're just getting started. I mean, we're going to keep going. People are reaching out to us, but we would love to have the Royals, the Chiefs, and other teams engage our community by way of these conversations, because when we can have these conversations, when it's not a vote going on and it's all political, if you will,
Yeah.
people feel more connected. They feel more connected, and it's less pressure on the team's part.
Well, it's about long form conversations,
Right.
You know, the little 2 minute, 1 minute, 30-second clip that they get on the TV, or you know, a lot of people probably don't even read too much stuff online or whatever. I mean, some
or
do,
like Hispanic Heritage Month,
Yeah.
everybody's doing that. You know,
Right.
it's like, hey,
But
we're here.
you know, where it comes from is having these sit down conversations.
Yeah.
People that are audience in Kansas City that need to know, that want to know, that have all these questions that we asked. You know, so it's imperative.
I would say please pass that message along to leadership and ownership of the teams, because, you know, that's what this platform is for, Pedro. This conversation is just like this.
I believe you'll have a representative. I mean, Adam Sachs should have been here. I think he's VP of and Chief Legal Officer, but he's very astute about community engagement. Folks, go on his website, take a look at it.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, go to both websites and look who runs these organizations, and look at who's all in different positions in there.
Yeah.
And then that helps you inform how legitimate these folks are, as they're building teams that really have experience to know what is a threshold pain for the average person.
Yeah.
You know, they got to deal with the players and the high profiles, winning back-to-back Super Bowls. You know? I mean, that's tough, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But please, folks, go out and take a look at that. I mean, you'll see some very impressive people that both organizations are putting on their staff and then reaching out to the community. This is a first, I think, to be able to sit down with these teams and try to really strengthen the message. And some things, and I could say this because when we first talked about affordable housing, I was like, what does that have to do with us? But then they said, we got to get affordable housing.
Yeah.
Because our workers, and so it's simple things, you know, because day-to-day operations kind of put them in a day-to-day competitive operation.
Right.
But until we start informing them, I think we can put together a better revenue generator for our city and employment for the communities we're talking about.
Absolutely.
The brown community and the black community.
Well, really appreciate the invite again, Pedro, and thinking of us, you know, for this platform to get this information on the vote out. You know, at the end of the day, we want our audience, we want our community to just go out and vote. And we hope that this conversation was helpful to everybody, you know, who's watching this. So with that said, Enterrupt KC.
Enterrupt KC.
People,
man.
Places, and Things, Kansas City.
Yes, sir.
Till next time, hope you enjoyed this episode. Peace, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.